Hello, beautiful souls. Today's episode is so good. And before we jump in, I have some exciting news to share. If you've ever wondered where you're blocking money, this is for you. I've created a free quiz to diagnose your money wounds so you can heal them and unblock yourself to receive more money. Just go to moneywoundsquiz.com and answer 6 quick questions to get your insanely accurate and potent results. And if you're loving my vibe and want to work one-on-one to call in more feminine energy wealth, I would love to hear from you. You can shoot me a DM on social media or go to emilywilcox.com to learn more. Hello and welcome back to the M Makes Money Show. I'm so happy to be joined by the gorgeous Clair Chapman. Clair is a leading force when it comes to successful female entrepreneurs' empowerment, truth, and freedom. Empowering successful women, Clair reunites female entrepreneurs back to their truth in life and business so they stop feeling empty with their success. Empowered women create a life and a business that is fulfilling and enjoyable, all whilst owning and expressing their authentic identity. I love this so much. Clair, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for today.
Yeah, me too, because I think our work together is so interesting and so synergistic because I focus a lot on helping women really expand their wealth, and you help women who already have the money piece of the puzzle in place, but are missing out on some of the fulfillment or the self-expression or that sort of thing. And both of those pieces are so necessary. Life sucks without money, but life sucks if you have money and you don't have everything else.
Exactly. And I'll just share a little bit about my background and my story of how this all came around was because, I followed the typical society path, did well at school, went on to college and so on, and got the good jobs and the pay, and then met the man. So I had my husband, had the children, had the country cottage and all the cars on the outside, everything that was outside that people just thought was this dream life that I had. And yet inside of myself, I felt soulfully dead. There was no, I carried guilt and shame for having all this stuff, beautiful family, everything around me that everybody desires. And yet inside, why was that not enough? It wasn't enough for me. I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. There was definitely no freedom. And I used to think I was kind of greedy because I was like, there has to be more. But what I really was seeking, which I didn't know, is this whole sense of wholeness from within. And so I had everything on the outside. And then one by one, I started to let go of some of that. So let go of my marriage. I found myself in depression, bipolar, divorce with 2 very young children and literally wanting out. It's almost like life was too hard. And I literally heard these words that said, you have to help yourself. And it was from that point that I went on and literally Googled, you have to help yourself. And I was like, what does that even mean? And there's the big self-help world. And that's where the journey went.
I love that. It's so interesting. Like when we have these moments where there's a distinct before and after, like before you knew that this entire self-help industry, world, coaching profession, that any of it existed, and then after. And it's like you're never, you can't go back. You can't unring that bell once you know.
Yeah. So, and it was literally a line, like, scissors cut the paper or the line in the sand. And it was literally like seconds. I just heard those words and it was literally, people talk about their awakening, your wake up call. It was like, who said that? What does that mean? Let me go search.
So you started on the path of helping yourself. What did that look like?
It's been a journey. It's taken a lot of shifting and changing of beliefs, patterns. it's literally, like I say, leaving my marriage, still being in a job though that was really kind of confining me and didn't feel good for me, but there was no other partner. I was, single mum now. I wasn't getting support off my ex, had to pay the bills, had to pay the mortgage. So I literally, again, sacrifice is a word that's just come through. I was sacrificing my soul, my happiness to make ends meet, to pay the bills, to support the 2 young children. And it got to a stage where that, was literally like sucking up my soul as well. So I still had some of that carryover. And the one thing in my life then was, after a year or so, I was like, I really do want a guy in my life. Like, I do want a relationship. I was like, Saturday night, sat on my own, 2 young children in bed. It was 7:00. And it's like, is this what my life's going to be like now? But previously in relationships, I was always trying to fill the void that I know now of love. It was self-love that I was craving. I had love from my family, love from my friends, but I didn't feel love. So it was like everything outside of me was trying to fill a piece, a void that was within me. And so I think from the journey that year of, really getting back to myself, really connecting back to my truth, gave me the sense of, do you know what? I don't need a man anymore in my life, but now I desire a man. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this again, if I'm going to get into a relationship again, then this is what I want. This is how it's going to be. This is the kind of guy that I really want to be with. And I will not accept anything less. It was like 100% or nothing, because there was no need to it. I didn't need a guy in my life. And I remember I was working in the engineering industry, and all the guys that I was working with go online dating. I was like, never going to happen. It happened. And I literally set those energetic boundaries. I wrote what I wanted in one sentence for my relationship. And within weeks, I met my now fiance. We've been together 7 years. And that was the big thing in my life that switched and made me realize, okay, this isn't about what I need anymore. This is about what I desire. And then slowly over time, I managed to walk away from the job. And it's like, what am I going to do with my life now? And it's like, well, I turned my life around. Maybe I can help somebody else turn their life around. Hello, coaching industry.
I love that. And, I think that is the story for many of us, right? It's like whatever that pivotal thing was in our own lives, there's such a desire to help other women with it as well. And for you, it sounds like the money, the cars, like everything that came so easily. Was it coming through the ex-husband? Was he sort of the path of least resistance for that lifestyle that you had in the beginning?
It was through both of us. We were pretty equal in our incomes and things like that. But it was the 9 till 5. It was the job. It was the paychecks that were coming in, but they were doing, pretty well. And we both used to work for BMW, so it's always brand new cars every 9 months, both of us. And we had an extra one, so then family would have it. So, and we had this beautiful cottage that my mum and dad used to own. And then we bought off of them and we extended as we had the kids. So, we've got woods behind us, woods out front of us. It is picture perfect.
Gotcha.
But through all the divorce, it was like, am I even going to be able to hold on to this? And I was like, This was my home first. I was here when I was single. I was not letting this go. And again, you set these like standards. It's like, no, I'm having this house, even though the paperwork, everything was just telling us there was no way that I was going to be able to keep this house on my own. Even with my parents, trying to help out. And literally, I just manifested the home, like literally, like in the courtrooms, like before it even got to the judge and stuff. Like my ex-husband just said, right, I'll stay on the mortgage for you, even though it's all yours. We're paying all the money, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, like it does get to be effortless, so the new relationship came in effortlessly. I managed to, secure the home on my own, and it just, everything just kept turning over. But yes, it was having all of that stuff and being unhappy. But what that then did was, the money beliefs started to come through now that, and I never knew this, obviously they were unconscious, even though I've always loved money. I always made good money in my 20s. I used to flip property. It was nothing to have 60K, 30K, from turnovers of houses. And so the whole story really started on the money front to go downhill. And I think that was because the belief then was, when you have money, I was soulfully dead. Like, I connected with you. When I had everything, I was soulfully dead. And I think unconsciously it was, although I've always had the home, and Simon's been with me for the 7 years, but the money story, and, then it was loans, it was bank cards. We were, really, really scratching around. But most of the money then was flowing through Simon. Part of the least resistance was Simon.
Yeah.
Unless we needed it. And then I'd open the energetic floodgates that I know now, money would come in, then I would close it all off again until we needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating, right? When we start to make the subconscious conscious and we can actually look at it, because it's like you were powerfully manifesting in those times. You were just manifesting the thing that you didn't consciously want, which was the money not being there or it being a challenge. But it's like, if you had to choose, do you want the money or do you want to be happy? You were choosing to be happy. And it wasn't until you realized, oh, I don't have to choose between those two. I get to have both. That then it got to change for you. Yeah.
And that's still, that's still quite fresh for me, because it took a long time to bring the unconscious, into the conscious. I literally had one of my biggest money belief shift August of last year, and then I made 11K in 2 hours, 30K in 6 hours. Like, it was crazy, but then it all gates shut off again. And so I've been going through this pattern of the gates open, the gates shut, the gates open, the gates shut. And it's like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I do this stuff? And obviously, it's the same with the clients, like receiving the clients, all the nothing. And it was like, but like you say, when you've felt and you've had everything, but you haven't felt whole, complete, happy, joy, freedom, why would you go back to that? So the pendulum went from this side right over to the opposite, where I remember last August, Simon and I were away on this beautiful beach. We didn't even know how to pay the bills the following week. And yet I was the healthiest I've ever been. I was the happiest I've ever been. It was that real duality of fear of how do we pay the bills, and then just this absolute, like, the best I have ever felt in myself for the whole of my life. And so I walked with the duality of that for quite some time.
What did that look like, walking with that duality?
I scared Simon constantly. Scared him constantly. It was almost like, I used to kind of live out on the edge just to get the excitement and things, and obviously not knowing about, the energetic doors opening for money and closing, that wasn't in my consciousness. But I knew there was a belief that all the time that I was happy, I knew what I was doing. I always knew that I was going to be safe. I always knew that the bills somehow would get paid. And so I kind of walked, now and again I may hit fear, but I think Simon hit more fear. He's like, why do you do this to us? Because I've invested so much. He was like, do you have to keep investing? But it has got me to where I am today. I did slow down the investing a little bit at the back end of last year. So it was also walking with a partner who's fully supporting you. There was limitations with him as well. He then 2 weeks later had a stroke in his life. So he was out of work for nearly 7 months. He hasn't been working because of the stroke. Then the money comes in for me. And so we've had this real dance, and I've kind of got okay and comfortable with the duality. I think when Simon had his stroke and I'm traveling up and down to the hospital for 2 weeks at a time, he couldn't walk. We were like, this is a whole new side to life, and yet I was still serving my clients. I was still making money, and I remember one of my clients saying, how are you being so strong? And I had to let that land for a couple of days, and I went back to her and I said, look, it's not about strong and strength. This is about this deep inner knowing in my core, and I'm all about perspective and the bigger picture. What happened for Simon in his stroke was for him. This was like a reboot, a rebirth to life, because he'd lived very stressful life, IT consultant, run his own business and things. There was a lot going on in his life that he was given the opportunity to rebirth himself. And so I always looked from that stage. And then obviously Simon was always the path of least resistance. So it was like, okay, now I get to step up because he's not here. I'm a manifester. So now it's like, I'm in control of all the money because he can't even look at his laptop. I'm running the show now for us. And so it allowed me to come through and really be the manifester and, do things my way, not having to consult with a partner and stuff. So that both of it was like, a blessing in disguise. Yeah. And so I was like, if I can walk with that and this, earn the money and have a partner that now I'm caring for and help him recover, and doctors in and out every single day, it was like, do you know what? I can walk with anything. Yeah. And after that, we found out my dad had cancer. He had operations and limbs removed and things like that. And it's still like, but that's life. Right. When you fall into the victim mode, that's when you become disempowered, and that's where everything crumbles and is a problem, and it really affects us. But when we can come up and go, okay, life happens, but who do you want to be in there? Walking with that. And that doesn't mean like, even with Simon, I would come back from the hospital, I would eat a bit of rubbish because, diets, everything all went out the window. What I was eating went out, the emotions take over. And I would sit and watch movies. I'd want to be on my own and I would cry. I would allow the human. So I think that's a really important piece when you're walking through the duality, is allow the human to cry, allow the human to feel the emotions, and then, still remember the truth, that knowing inside of us that we're all here for an experience. Yeah. And then move forward. And I think it was a very similar pattern with the money. When the money wasn't there, it was like, okay, allow the human to go, oh my gosh, what if we can't pay the bills, lose the house, and go down the big fear? I allowed my human to do that. But then in here, and this is what I've built on this recovery for me from 8 years ago, is this inner knowing and truth that money gets to be limitless. We get to be supported, and every single time we were. Yeah. 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 And what you're describing is being alive. And so when you looked at feeling dead in your soul, think about that as a flat line, right? We flatline when we're dead, but when we're alive, it goes up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down, right? Just like a heart rate on a graph. And so it's like being able to hold the high highs and the low lows, but you're alive. I'm here. You're actually there. You're actually allowing yourself to feel it instead of the way that you felt before, which was probably quite a bit just more numb to all of it. 100%. And then searching for everything outside of yourself to try and, I think, feel alive, whether that become drinking, partying, shopping, to give you that. And that's what happened. Definitely, with bipolar, that's what happens. You go into the shop, I have this, I have this, I have this, just to, like you say, maybe just ignite the heartbeat a little bit, give you that kind of sense of, and then you'd get home and you'd lay all your stuff out, and it's like, and the next day you take it all back to the shops. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the behavior that you're talking about too around money and being able to manifest, these large sums, or the money always coming through, but on the frequency of need. It's interesting because I was talking to a mastermind sister about this the other day, and what she had, and I'm curious if any of this resonates with you, is what in my body of work I would call a disappearing money wound. And the energetic signature of that is, I don't trust money, or money will abandon me. And so it's like, even though you trust yourself and you trust your ability to manifest, because she was like, but I'm a really good manifester. Yeah. I said, I know.
because in your mind, that money is already spent, which feels really good to you. Right. What you don't want is a big pile of cash, because there's a part of you that feels a little bit scared that then the money might just go or the rug might get pulled out. But as long as you know what the money is going to go for as soon as you get it, then there's no resistance. The money can come in so easily because it's already been spent in your mind, and that feels really good.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity to build our feeling of safety around the accumulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if that resonates for you or not. It may be a slightly different version of the story, but it's fun. Yeah. It's interesting for us to look at some of the energy underneath these things.
Yeah. So for me, it was very much, so my dad's come from like a farming background when he was very young. So he's always been the workaholic, the work hard. Like we never went without as children. Like I look back now and go, how did my parents give me and my brother like all this, always holidays abroad? You know, we had everything. We were in all the clubs. We went on all the school trips. Like there was never anything that was a no. Mm-hmm. So we had all of this. So you think, well, then how do you have these money beliefs, Claire, that, you know, you were given everything? But what we saw was my dad was never really around. Not that I can remember that much as a child, but he always used to work 6 days a week, if not 6.5 days a week. So there was always that sacrifice, you know, dad had to work hard for it. So I've always been brought up then, you know, achieving. I got seen through my achievements. I thought I had to do the right thing. So definitely, you know, going to college, get the qualifications, getting the job, the right job, you know, engineering, it's a skill, and just grafted my way through. Even though, you know, my soul probably wanted to be over on a beach somewhere. My brother took a very different direction. He was like windsurfing, sailing, living in the Bahamas. And, you know, I'm over here doing the right thing. So my money beliefs was about hard work. And then it was always the question of, and this definitely came from my dad, bless him, I love him dearly, but it was like, well, you don't need that. Yeah. So that was it. Why do you need that? You don't need that. And it's always been very much like dad would paint the house, dad would DIY. Like, why would you pay somebody to paint the house when you can do it yourself? No, we do it ourselves. So it was like I've always been brought up with that concept as well. So I always paint the house, and you know, we mow the lawn ourselves, we wash the cars ourselves. So that's what I've always been brought up with. So anything out of that need, I used to justify unconsciously. But I remember mum saying, why do you have to justify everything? And it's like, because I always had to have the economical car, the sensible car. And, you know, my friends would always have like the sportier cars, and I would have the diesel, you know, economical car, because dad would help me out, you know, and he would come with me and be sensible. So it's always about being sensible. Desire just didn't exist. It was, what did you need? And so then anything over and above need was like, if I could justify it, then I might be able to get around that. So I've never had the overflow, the abundance, the excess in the family at all. So I'm like the first one that's going, I just want it all, like, you know, because now I know that it's not to fill up a void that's within me.
Right.
I feel very wholesome. And that was the experience, you know, last year, and that continues, that I feel, like you say, the happy, the freedom, the love, the connection that all comes through from connecting to God, to looking at who I am, my human design, what makes me quirky and unique, like that you get to love all of who you are. So I have everything in here. And then it's like, and I remember thinking about this with clients, was like, well, what do you love doing, Claire? Yeah, I love shifting the beliefs. You know, I love shifting the old patterns. I love connecting to God. I love channeling. I love the downloads. Why don't you just help somebody else do that? So then my clients just become, oh yeah, if I'm just doing this for me, then that may happen once a day, or maybe a big belief once a week, couple of weeks. But then if I had clients, we could do this work like every day. So everything then just became an extension of what was in me, like an expansion of, like, with my relationship with Simon, because that was the first manifestation, was I had self-love within me. So now when I'm with Simon, that love just gets expanded, rather than previously I had nothing inside me. So I was trying to find the love in a relationship. And so whether it's money now, whether it's clients, and I literally had a client in just now in the Voxer, she was talking about she wants the 7 figures. And I was like, okay, where's this coming from? What do you think you will, it's always a good question. What do you think that you will get when you have the 7 figures? And she was like, wow, that was a really interesting question. And she said, I'm doing it because everybody else is doing it. And she was like, whoa, rain check. And she's like, but now, because obviously we've connected her back to her truth and she's starting to feel wholesome. She's like, well, I just don't need it now. So what's the point, Claire? And I said, well, what do you love right now? And she's like, well, I want to buy a home and I love who I am and I love my fashion and I love my car. So I said, well, then the 6 figures, she's already 6 figures, but then like the 7 figure, it just gets to expand the experience. She loves food. And I said, look, it's the difference between always eating a McDonald's because it's cheap and it's on the moment, to going to a nice restaurant, to then going to a Michelin star restaurant, and then flying off on a private jet to the most amazing restaurant in Paris. It's always food, but it's the expansion of that desire. So do you want to keep eating the McDonald's? Do you want to just go to the normal restaurants? Do you want the Michelin stars? Or would it be amazing to jet off all over the world, anywhere you want to go, to have that food that you desire? She's like, okay, now I'm up for the So everything then, the money and everything just becomes the expansion of what she already loves and enjoys. So then there's no disconnect, there's no filling a void. It's just you're whole as you are, and then come back out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like when we can make the magic money, which comes from that truly aligned place where it's aligned with the way that we want to be serving in the world, and, the desires that are just, the heart's desire, not keeping up with the Joneses or what other people will think, or, how I'll be perceived once I have it.
Yes.
It's a totally different feeling, and money becomes so much lighter and more playful.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I always remember I wanted like the black Range Rover. It was a Vogue back in the day, but then a Sport. and I knew I wanted it. I wanted it because then it would have made me somebody. I would be, somebody. I would have made it, if I could drive around in a car like that. And once I did the work on myself, it's like, oh my gosh, no. That's not the reason. Would I like one? Yeah. Do you really want one? And actually the desires are more for a white car, a Porsche, those kind of things. So it's like, but only because it came into my vision. I walked into the Porsche showroom and I was like, instantly, like, absolutely beaming and so shocked that the vision was exactly how in reality it was, how it was in my vision. And I remember at the same time my client messaged me. She was in the Range Rover garage and was like, I could buy this outright. I'm sat here in the driving seat, Claire, I feel nothing. And I think that's the difference between connecting back to your truth and feeling whole, and filling a void, or doing it for, like you say, some other reason, keeping up with the Joneses, making yourself feel better. It's like 2 luxury cars, 2 humans, 2 souls, and yet 2 different energetics, where this one was just like, I almost don't even need the Porsche, because even in my visions, like, the feelings come through. And then here she is, and I couldn't buy that outright in that moment, and here she is, she could have everything and buy it outright, and it felt nothing. And it was like, do not buy the car. Let's go back in. Why are you having the car? What's the hole there? What are you trying to fill? And it all comes down to, worthiness and all those inner things that we're trying to seek. And
Yes. And I noticed this a lot with my own purchases too, where it's like, they're really driven now by either like a resonance or a dissonance. And so it's so much more about the energy around the purchase than it is the actual item or the withholding of it. And so, it's like, my purse is like from Target. I think it costs $30 and I spent $120,000 on coaching, but it's like, the coaching was such a sacral yes for me. And I knew I was meant to be there. And I knew that it would serve in the expansion of me. And for me, at least right now, like purses don't really do it for me. So I'm fine to just buy something that's a little more utilitarian. I tend to use my purses for like 2 years until they start getting frayed or whatever. And then there will be some dissonance because I do notice like, okay, I'm not the woman that has like ratty things,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so then when I notice the dissonance, it's like, oh, okay, it's time to buy another one. But I think we all get to have that, right? Like we all have these sort of purchases that make no sense, but make all the sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then other things that on paper, it would make sense. Like for me to have the nice purse or for your client to have the Range Rover or whatever.
Yeah.
But energetically, no.
Yeah. And I think that was, when we look at, and this is where I take my clients to where they're at today, what do you enjoy today? And I did this exercise for myself and I was like, I love my home. I love my family. I love the car that I have. I love going away for weekends, Airbnb, luxury Airbnbs. And it was like, so then what is the expansion? What's the money? And it's like, well, we get to go away then more often. I can upgrade the car. We can renovate the house again, and then the more money just becomes within the 7-bedroom farmhouse. And it's the same sort of, I'm not a designer clothes person. I'm not into the handbags, the shoes. It's just like, I just like what I like. But what I love is the soft furnishings, is the expensive quilt covers and just those kind of things that I really love, like the snugs and stuff on the sofas. And I love chocolate, I love watching Netflix. And so for those kind of things to be like, this evening we haven't got the kids tonight, so it's like me and Simon, I know, we're going to cook a dinner, we're going to snuggle on the sofa, we're going to watch a film. So I want to be sat on a nice sofa, I want to snuggle up with him with nice furnishing. So that to me is what feels really nice to me. If I just went out and got a designer handbag because that's what everybody's doing, I know it's just going to be sat in a drawer, because that's not really my lifestyle. We're out here in nature. I don't need to carry around a designer handbag. It's like we don't really eat out very often because we love cooking. We love new recipes. I love the whole going to the shop. I don't even get like my groceries delivered because I love the planning. I love the recipes. What do we need? Going to the shops, picking it out, cooking it together in the kitchen with the music playing, eating it, serving it up together, so it's a whole process. So there's no point going, oh, I went to this really lovely restaurant to keep up with the Joneses, because it's like, but that, part of the process was missing. So I don't do that, but it's not a big thing for me. Like I would rather just keep getting more wholesome and beautiful organic foods and farm shops, and that's would be our expansion. That's where the money comes in. And that's where I was like, you just expand. Money just expands from what already is. I'm not going to say I won't ever buy some at designer. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing. And like for everyone listening, this is not about a right or wrong. It really isn't. It's just checking in and understanding energetically, like how it feels to you. And it's like, if it feels expansive, if it feels luxurious, if it feels like it's meeting you at this next level version of yourself, then there's alignment. And then that's a really wonderful purchase. Right. Whether it's the handbag and it sits in the closet most of the year, that actually doesn't matter. It's like, how do you feel when you look at it? Does it expand you? Are you like, I'm the woman who has this designer purse and I know I can use it whenever I want to? Or for Claire and I, at least at this moment in time, we would look at it and be like, that was the thing I bought because like I thought I needed it. I thought it would make me feel a certain way. And so then it's like, it brings your energy down whenever you look at it.
Yeah. And then you start getting in your head, like, why did I buy that? And then it's like, oh, what a waste. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
I could have done this instead. It's funny, like some of my favorite shoes that I own are my wellies that we walk the dog in nearly every day. And in the winter, they go through all the mud. And I spent like nearly £300. That's probably like $360 on a pair of wellies. But when I put them on, like, they're like slippers.
Yes.
And with that, my dog just walks in. Of course he does. So it's like, you know, I'd rather spend $360 on a pair of wellies that I'm going to walk around the woods in, that I love anyway, stepping in the mud and they feel like slippers, than to be buying a $20, you know, pair of wellies that are uncomfortable, they're not sported, they're not cushioned, they're not thermal lined, than to go out and buy a pair of designer heels. You know, it's like,
Yep, exactly. I love it. I'm so glad that we're on this topic, because I do think it's something that it takes a while. It takes a getting to know yourself. It takes a reclamation. It takes an understanding of your inner authority. It takes a sensitization to your own feelings and your own energy to get to this place. And until you get there, it can feel a little confusing. Like, well, do I buy the thing or don't I? Or, you know, there's this question mark or this murkiness around it. And so if you're feeling that way and you're listening to this, it really is just an invitation to start noticing more keenly how you feel and just getting curious.
Yeah.
And then let that start to guide you.
100%.
Yeah. And I know that's a lot of the work that you do with your clients, is like, it's this reclamation and this self-discovery and getting to know what truly lights you up.
Yeah. And the word that's just coming through really strong right now is honesty. There is no less, no more, and no right and no wrong. It's just being really honest with yourself. Like, I had to get really honest. I love Netflix. I love some of the series on Netflix, and they're like my trash TV. But there's, when you're working hard, when you're doing the mind stuff, when you've got your family and you're doing all this stuff, it's like, okay, where can you just switch off of everything? And I'm like, I love sitting on the sofa, watching a bit of sunset, selling sunset, you know, bit of
I watched that too.
I know, right? But I had to get really honest, because before I used to feel very guilty, very lazy, and justify, oh, mummy's worked so hard now, like she can sit in front of the TV. And it's just like, just own the fact that you love that. Some people love the movies, some people love jogging, working out, whatever. That is like that's like my downtime, that's my switch off, that's like my, and it was like, just get really honest and go, yeah, I love this. Yeah. And you were talking about, you know, your inner authority. So I'm a splenic authority. So I'm a in the moment, like, let's go. I heard it is go. And people, like my family, my dad just said it the other day, he's like, I've just realized, I'm 46 years old. He's just realized that whatever you want in the moment, Claire, you're going to go and get it. It doesn't matter what it is. You're going to move the mountains and you'll just go and get it. And if we want to join you, we can. Or if we don't, we don't. I'm like, yeah, it took 46 years for me also. But it is understanding that. And it's like that. Do you know what? Yeah, I want that now. Like, let's go. Yeah, that feels good. Let's do this. Because that's my authority. Yeah. Yes, no. Does this feel really good to me in my body? Is this a hell yes or a, you know, yeah. So I think the inner authority as well.
Oh my gosh. I love that your dad recognized that. Like, you must have felt so seen in that moment.
It was like, I always used to have this saying, like at birthdays and things, like my family would buy me things. And I'm just like, do they even know me? Like, why would I want this ornate handbag when I want to walk over the fields in Welly? Do you know what I mean? It was just like, and I used to question, and you've just brought it to my attention then. And I was like, they do now. But I think that's because I've got honest with myself. I've owned my true self. And so now they're obviously, you know, witnessing that. Whereas previously I would live a conditioned life, a false persona, people pleaser, getting the things that, you know, dad recommended, or don't do this, or what's the return of investment, don't do that because of this, and just listen to everybody else. And this is part of the wholeness. Feeling whole is when you're like, I do things in the moment. I don't know why, but I know why. I can't explain why. I'm just going to do this thing. Feels right. Let's do this. And of course, it affects everybody in the family. It's a bit of a tidal wave when I move. But as long as I say to them, this is what I'm doing, and it goes the same with investments. I've just hired my next coach now. It's the same with everything that moves on. But then I also encourage them to do them as well.
Yes. Yeah. Well, also very aligned to your human design to be informing, informing and initiating and informing and initiating. So I love that. Okay. Well, if you remember on your entrepreneurial journey, just kind of at a high level, like how much money you made each year or whatever some of those significant financial milestones were, I would love for you to walk us through that.
Sure. So I've been on a real financial journey, especially on my entrepreneurial journey, because there was so much. I think when you're an entrepreneur, it's more now about you. I could flip houses. I could sell products. I was, running multi-million-pound projects as a female in my 20s and my 30s.
Yeah.
Then we step into entrepreneurship and it's almost like you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I've been building up on the financials. I think my highest was sort of last year. I think the big milestone that stands out when I made $11,000 in 2 hours, 30,000 in six hours. And then now it's like seems to be norms, anything between like 5 and 10Ks. So I've been an entrepreneur for nearly 4 years, and I had to get very honest with myself as well, because my client has been an entrepreneur for 4 years. She's making the millions. And so, I haven't yet. And I've only just discovered another belief just yesterday that explained, why the money wasn't consistent, why it wasn't raising up. Mm-hmm. And that shifted yesterday. So I'm really excited about the financials coming forward. I can manifest money. I can win money. You're talking about the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
I can win it. It comes through in other ways. It comes, there's always money coming in, but it would never come through me. But unless I had my big money break last year, so it starts to come through, but it's still very inconsistent. I think the 5 to 10K now is more consistent.
Yeah.
But obviously, doing the work that I do and helping multimillionaires, find the fulfillment, and me shifted the money beliefs. I'm really excited for what's to come this year.
Yeah,
it's really exciting. So
I'm so excited for you too. Yeah, I know it's on the way, and I can so resonate with what you talked about, where it's like we could make so much money through more tangible things, and I see it. I have an e-commerce business as well. And I had that first before we started our agency. Never did I attach my worth to whether or not people bought the thing.
Yeah.
It was so much more straightforward. And it was like, we were doing, I don't know, $700,000 a year in that business or whatever. And then we start an agency. And if somebody said no to $1,500 a month retainer for us to manage everything in their Amazon business, like it was so underpriced, it was insane. I felt like it was a no to me.
Right. Yeah.
And I felt so sad over that $1,500.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what happens when we're a coach or when we're a consultant or when we really feel our identity so closely linked to our business. And it's not that we're not the same person that can make a shit ton of money for somebody else or through products or through other things. It's just that universe is like, okay, well, this is now the path of least resistance to get you to do the inner work.
Right. Yeah.
We talk about the path of least resistance with money, but also our higher self is like, oh, okay, well, this is now the easiest way to get you to evolve at hyperspeed. I'm just going to withhold the money because you don't feel worthy right now. And we're going to let you do all that work that you get to do on yourself.
Yeah. I remember a coach saying to me, she said, you know, you're going to do this all probably the way that you don't want it. You're going to do all the healing, all the inner work. You're going to feel like so amazing and be so connected. And then the money's just going to pour in. And I was like, I know, but I would like to get the money as I'm doing all the healing as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is the point. Like, this is my journey. It doesn't have to be that way. Don't think for a minute you need to go off and be healed and the money will come through, because it doesn't work like that. Like, the healing is forever going. The depth is deepening. My message is always deepening. And yeah, we never know the unconscious stuff that holds us back or holds the money back is just, it blows my mind. So if you're an entrepreneur, you know, or you're just starting off, you're going to find everything that's in the unconscious. Like, it's going to come out, your worth, your happiness, like everything that you connect around yourself, your childhood, like money is going to come out. It's going to get served up on a silver platter. So a little bit of resilience in there, some strength. And you need that desire, don't you? That you know what's inside of you and the work you're going to do, because it's going to be days where it does get pretty hard.
Yeah.
What keeps you driving through?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and every journey is different. And to me, that's one of the special things about this show and getting to highlight so many other women entrepreneurs is like just being able to honor and witness everyone's journey through the lens of money. But the money is representative of so much more. And the only people who are being really loud about their money story typically are the ones where it did seem to happen fast and easy and big. And what that means for the rest of us is that when our story isn't fast and easy and big, it can feel like, well, is there something wrong with me? Am I broken? Am I cut out for this? And so I'm always so grateful when there are women entrepreneurs on this show where it took time, where it was up and down on the way up, where there were some curveballs, because I actually think that's most of us. And there's so much value in being earlier on your journey and just knowing that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're doing awesome. Just keep going and the money will come. The money is on its way. Just keep serving, keep showing up, keep doing the inner work, and it's all working out. Yeah.
And I always keep coming back to it's always about the money and it's nothing to do with the money.
Yeah.
It's like all about the money, not about the money.
Yeah.
I remember trying to sell like something for $33 and couldn't, and then selling like a month program for $6,000 and sold it. And sometimes you try and sell a $6,000 and you can't, you can sell $100,000. Like these are the, when you start looking into the beliefs and the patterns, it's just like, this doesn't make sense. And it makes you click and go, it's not about the figure. It's not about the money. It's about what do you connect? What do you make that mean? I've got a client right now. She's like, oh, I always love to keep $1 million in the bank. So her goal is to keep 3 million. She said, but I've just bought a house, my dream house, and I've only got $50,000 left. And I was like, that's like a lottery to some people, $50,000. Yeah. So it just shows it doesn't matter what level you're at. You know, I got another client who's a 6-figure earner, multi 6 figures, sat in the bank and, you know, feeling empty. So, and then, you know, I'm nowhere near them financially. And I just love my life. I love who I am. And so it's all about the money, not about the money. And when we can come to this balance and understand that when we feel whole and complete and there's nothing, no void to be filled, and then that gets to be expanded and we allow money to be the support, money to be the expander.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Okay, so for everyone listening that wants to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
So I'm out on Facebook. Personal profile is Clair Chapman, and I'm on Instagram, Clair_Louise_Chapman.
Beautiful. And we will pop those links in the show notes. So everyone listening, go follow Clair. If you took something away from this episode, just screenshot it, share it, tag both of us. We would love to hear what landed for you. And it's always fun to then reshare you as well. So Claire, thank you so much for being on the show and just sharing. And you've got such a unique, infectious energy and your zest for life. Like, it's just very palpable. And I know that everyone's going to want to follow you and be in your vibe as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for the invite. Yes, and I would love to hear, like you say, from some of the listeners, what really landed for you, what stood out for you, what ignited something within you. Would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. So to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Changing the way we think, feel, and talk about money will change the world. I truly believe that. It starts with you tuning in, and it spreads when you share this show on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at mmakesmoney. And you know what moves the needle the most? Taking just a minute to leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This show isn't free to produce, so let's multiply those dollars invested to help this show reach a bigger audience each week. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. And lastly, if you want more connection, more M Makes Money style riffs, and a safe place on the internet to talk about money, jump into my free Facebook group, The Money Club. It's linked in the show notes. Until next time, I'm wishing you health, happiness, and boatloads of money.